One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dear Heavenly Father, we give you thanks and praise for the moisture at this gathering. Be with us. Help us to make good decisions for the benefit of the county. Be with those who suffered property loss, and we give thanks that no one was hurt during the recent inclement weather. If you would, be with us today, guide us, and may all of our things that we do and say here be pleasing in your sight. In your name we pray. Amen. First item on our agenda is to amend our agenda this morning. And Commissioner Dries, do you have a motion to amend the agenda?
Yes, sir. This morning we need to add a line item for our Emergency Management Director, Paul Resley, right after the canvassing of the ballots. And then following the KDOT update with Ron Hall, we need an administrator report. And then lastly, just before adjournment, we need an executive session. So with those additions, Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the agenda.
Is there a second? Moved and seconded to amend the agenda as presented. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. I think everyone knows how little I like to amend the agenda at meetings. This was required, so we'll get right to it. Madam Clerk, you have the floor for the presidential preference primary. We will in a second.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'd first ask that you convene as the Board of County Canvassers.
All right, very good, thank you. We have a vacancy today, and under law, the board may appoint a person to sit in for Commissioner Finney, who's absent. Commissioner Finney asks that Roxanne Lansink, our Director of CVB, be appointed to sit as the Board of Canvassers. Is there a motion to make that appointment?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move the appointment of Roxanne.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that Roxanne Lansink be appointed to the Board of Canvassers for the purpose of conducting the canvass of the presidential preference primary. No further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I will now ask the board to take recess as the Board of County Commissioners and commence our work as the Board of County Canvassers to the presidential preference primary for 2023. Second motion? So moved. Seconded to convene as a Board of Canvassers. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Roxanne, would you help us as board? We are now convened as the Board of Canvassers. Thank you for agreeing to serve.
Good morning, Canvassers. Thank you for being here. Welcome, Roxanne. For this election, we have, we'll do this in two different parts. The first part of this, we will review the provisional ballots. You will make decisions on each group of provisional ballots as to whether or not we should count those. We'll then go downstairs and process those. That should take around an hour, and then we'll come back up and do the final results. So this morning, I have provided you each with a list of provisional ballots. And this is what we'll be going through this morning. If you have any questions as you go through these, please feel free to ask. And I will be asking for a vote on each of the groupings on this page. So the first is ballot C001. This voter was found not to be registered statewide, so a brand new voter. Law requires that a voter must register by the 31st day before a presidential preference primary election in order to cast a ballot. So in that case, we would recommend that this ballot does not count.
Madam Clerk, I move that we deny vote C001.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded not to count C001. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, the next four ballots, C002 through C005. Each of these ballots was cast by an actively registered voter who moved within the county and did not update their address prior to the deadline. So when a voter moves within the county and completes a new voter registration application at the time of voting, we would count those ballots. So for these, I would recommend that we count these four ballots.
I move that we count C002 through C005.
Second.
Moved and seconded to count votes C002 through C005. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, the next two ballots, C006 and C007. Both of these ballots were cast by an actively registered Democratic voter who requested a Republican ballot. They did not change their party before the deadline to do so. So if a voter receives a ballot of a party other than the party of their affiliation, the ballot does not count. So during a primary election, specifically when it's a closed primary, unaffiliated voters can affiliate with a party, but party members may not change party, so they can't vote another party's ballot. So in that case, I would recommend that these two ballots are not counted.
Mr. Chairman, I'll offer the motion to discount or not count C006 and C007.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded that 06 and 07 not be counted. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
They were in the transfer portal.
All right, the next two ballots, C008 and C009. These ballots were mail ballots, and the voters signed the wrong ballot envelope. So we did contact these voters multiple times. They opted not to come in and correct the signature issue. And the law does require, pursuant to 251120, that the voter sign the declaration on the envelope containing their own ballot. In that case, that did not happen, so I have to recommend that we do not count C008 and C009.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we do not count C008 and C009.
Been moved and seconded to not count 008 and 009 as recommended. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, the last two ballots, C010 and C011. These were, again, mail ballots. When these ballots arrived at our office, they were not signed at all, and we are required to contact the voters and ask them to rectify the signature issue. We were able to do that. These were a couple of residents at Garden Valley Retirement. We were able to get their signatures on the envelope, and in that case, I would recommend that we do count these two ballots.
One.
Commissioner, I motion that we accept the ballots.
I'll second.
Been moved that we count ballots C010 and C011 as recommended. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, so that concludes all of the provisional ballots. We will go downstairs and count 6 ballots out of the 11 provisionals that we have. I do want to take a minute. We've got our provisional board here, so I'd like to take a minute and introduce them. First of all, we've got Vanessa Soto. She is the deputy election officer and pretty much does everything for these elections. She's a great coordinator for all the tasks. So the board is made up of Beverly Schmitz-Glass, Audrey Law, and Claudia Ward. I just want to thank them for their service, especially for getting out this morning in this weather, so.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, we can take a recess from the Board of Canvassers and probably ought to have a vote
I'll offer the motion to reconvene as a Board of County Commissioners.
and to recess the Board of Canvassers because we'll meet as Board of Canvassers here to certify the results at the end of the
Right.
meeting. Is that your motion, sir?
That's my motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are now back in session. And Roxanne, we'll ask you to come back after we call the recess on the Board of Canvassers after the certification of the results from the chief election officer. Next on our business agenda is emergency management. Good morning. Please introduce
Morning.
yourself.
Paul Resley, Finney County Emergency Manager. Here to ask approval for the emergency declaration I asked for last night due to the extreme weather that we had in Finney County. Mainly for the Wilson addition, took the brunt of the storm. Just went mainly down Amy Street. To the north, the car wash, the Dollar General, Lewis Motors, and then up towards the high school, we suffered some damage. Fortunately, we had no injuries, had no fatalities. The biggest thing we had was out of DFA, we lost 52,000 pounds of nitrogen. It vented to the atmosphere. The gas wasn't a hazardous gas to where it became a problem. They got it, we just let it go to the air for the time being. We had no way to control it, so. We had a meeting at 8 o'clock this morning. City's gonna be providing some roll-offs and some cleanup means over there in the Wilson addition for the folks. We did not have to house anybody. Red Cross, I had been in contact with Red Cross. The couple people that was displaced had places to go, so fortunately, again, no injuries and very, very minimal damage as far as major structural damage. There was, at present, we had 8 industrial sites that had got hit, meaning the car wash, Lewis Motors and stuff like that. We had 3 houses that lost roofs, and then almost everybody on Amy Street lost their fence or shed. So, like I said, it could have been a lot worse, but it wasn't, so.
All right, questions for the manager? So the board is aware I declared a emergency and authorized emergency procedures for this event, and so that we can have all available resources available for those citizens in our county that suffered this adverse weather.
Paul, what kind of gas they lost at DFA?
Nitrogen, and it's a common gas they use for cooling and stuff like that for their milk. And tanks fell over, broke the coils on the line.
It was liquefied.
Yep, and it just vented to the atmosphere. So very, very fortunate, and as high as the winds were, it dispersed very quickly. So they suffered no injuries or anything happened there. So National Weather is on site this morning to assess the damages as well. So see what's going on.
Dory, do you have that resolution?
You want a motion?
I do, Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman, I'll offer the motion that we approve Resolution 09-2024 and authorize the chairman to sign.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded to authorize signature and declare the severe weather emergency resolution. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
One last thing, I want to thank all the first responders, and we had a bunch out there, had a lot of offers from help from other folks, so fortunately, we didn't need a whole lot of help. We were able to handle it, most of it ourselves, so we had many, many agencies out there assisting, so.
Well, I can tell you, Paul, on the way into town, there were emergency vehicles going south out of town and fire and emergency going east. So tornadoes and severe weather yesterday and a blizzard today. You got your hands full. We'll get you out of here.
What time did that happen, Paul?
It started at 3:30, was nearest that we could tell, and then we wrapped up most of the operations about between 8 and 8:30 last night, so.
Yeah, they had an incident out on West 50 or West 400, right there north of Tyson plant. They had EMS and fire,
Had a accident out there this morning, and
lots of folks there for a minute.
so it's gonna be a fun day again.
This day's not over. You're going to be busy.
Yeah. All right, thank you, guys.
Well,
Thank you, Paul.
right, next up, we have Commissioner Dries to tell us about the Justice Planner Agreement and recommendations, and if the administrator has any further comments, please chime in.
Do we need to wait for Alan a little bit, or is he close to being on?
We do have Alan on Teams.
He is on? Sean by chance on as well?
What's that?
Sean,
No, there's no Sean, just
Okay.
Alan.
Alan, can you hear us, sir? For those at TV land, we're still waiting for our connections, so that's the dead silence you're hearing.
I might as well turn mine on. Yeah.
Studies, I hate studies. language I don't know.
The snowstorm's just a shield for the aliens.
Uh, 803 area code, I don't see the. I don't see it right off. I know the bean counter's out of Nashville, I believe.
Hello, this is Alan Richardson. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Hello, hello, hello. Great, thanks.
Can you hear us, Alan?
Day like today, speed is not your friend. A day like today, speed.
This is a very interesting topic that we're covering.
No, we're making a lot of progress here.
It'll work. Pretty sure we can call him on a cell phone. It'll work.
Is that an option, Mr. Administrator? Call him up on his cell phone?
Dory, I need a copy of the map presentation that's Ron Hall gave us that's on today's stuff. Yeah, I don't think I got the stuff on the. What was in the packet? Is that in the packet? How did I miss that? Okay. If it's in the packet, I That's gonna be part of my presentation to Rotary tomorrow.
Wednesday.
I didn't think that's a good sound. Oh. Looked like a polar bear.
Yeah, I know. You'd think it's cold or something outside the way you're dressed.
Been spreading salt for an hour or two. What time did your guys get out this morning, Ron?
No idea. They've probably been out most of the night.
Can you hear us? Are the roads still closed in northwest Kansas? Not gonna be hard. Yeah, I know.
Robert, should we kind of continue and then have Alan speak to it after, or should we wait on Alan yet?
We're still figuring out the microphone.
Can we schedule this for next meeting?
No, we need to go with it.
We need to move on this.
One alternative we have is to take Ron Hall off and come back to this if the guys get it figured out. Is there a way that we can communicate with
Alan?
justice planners to tell them we got technical problems?
I can send him a message.
Would you please? We'll take him up. How long do you think? Oh, I think we can. All right. With the commission's consent, I'm going to move on from the Justice Planner Agreement. We're having technical issues. And in the room today is KDOT Project Update and Ron Hall, the KDOT District 6 Engineer. I would ask for you to come forward. Ron, introduce yourself to the viewing public, and we're glad you're here. Thanks.
Glad to be here with you. I'm Ron Hall, the district engineer for Southwest Kansas with KDOT. And just coming by to give an update on what we have going on and answer any questions that you folks would have. And David's going to be a repeat of a lot of what you heard in Dodge, so. The first thing I want to start out with is good news. For the first time in 6 years, Kansas fatalities have dropped below 400, and we're hopeful that will continue to be a trend of continuing to decrease and go down. The other item that I want to make mention of is one of the factors. We do a lot of efforts in what we do on roadways, from passing lanes to intersection improvements to signing changes in an effort to improve safety. One of the efforts we do is on the behavioral side, and I like to say it's a result of an extensive R&D effort. R&D stands for rip off and duplicate. We got it from Missouri. Phones, buckle up, phones down. And you may be seeing that advertising campaign in different places. Stolen from the Missouri DOT. But it's a good campaign, so it was worthy of copying. Do you have the?
Let's go in order, please.
Okay, there we go. That's one of the items that I wanted to bring to your attention. We've got a lot of work going. And you can see on that statewide map, Southwest Kansas is well represented. We've gotten a little bit of flack because we only had one project put into the development pipeline, the little piece up on 156, which for folks in Finney County, that's a really good project to add in. That's going to complete having shoulders, at least 3-foot paved shoulders all the way along 156. We've got a project starting that's scheduled to let in Hodgman County. Hodgman is in September. That goes from the curve about 4 miles west of Jetmore to Hanston. And it's going to add that 3-foot shoulder, put smoother slopes, more gentle slopes on the roadway. We're gonna have about a 90-day, it's not set yet, but I'm guessing it'll be about a 90-day closure of 156 to the west side of Jetmore, because we've got some hills in there that we need to take down. And in order to do that, you can't carry traffic next to it. So that we will have coming. It's gonna be a 2-year-long project, and that closure is more than likely gonna come. It'll be at the contractor's discretion, but I would anticipate it being in the second construction season, so. It'll be detoured. That's part of why we're limiting the time on it. The detour will run down 23 to 50 and across to Dodge City and back up 283. So we'll run a state route detour. That is probably not gonna be next summer, but the following. So, yeah. So it's currently on the letting for September of this year. So next summer would be the first season of the project, and then my guess would be 26 is when we would see the closure time. And then we are in the process of designing the piece, a very similar project on the piece from the west junction of 23 where the rest area is, and it goes up to Dighton to the Finney County line to improve that, add 3-foot shoulders. That one is in the design process. And then this one that just got put into the development pipeline finishes out that western portion of Hodgman County. As much as I go to Topeka, I'm looking forward to all those being completed. And I'll probably be retired, but anyway. Like I said, we've got a lot of projects going. If you can go to the next one that brings in there we go, the more local version of that map shows the ones around us. A big one impacting Finney County is the continued 4-lane expansion of 50 between Aerodrome Road and Cimarron. And we broke that project forward for ease of design and keeping the work with Kansas consultants. We broke that project into 4 separate projects, and they're 2 on the west end that are running about a year ahead of the 2 closer to Cimarron. And those 2 on the west end have been approved for construction, which basically means they're gonna be ready to go. And that is in the construction pipeline for letting in 2026. So it's still gonna be a while, but they are approved for construction. And the fact that those are approved for construction gives pretty strong impetus to approving the two closer to Cimarron, to carry the 4-lane on into Cimarron, that those will very likely also be approved for construction. So, and then of course we have the Cimarron to Dodge City. Those projects are currently under construction. But, so hopefully in another 5 years or so, we'll see 4-lane from Garden City to Dodge City. I'm gonna go ahead and go north now on 83. That shows 2 of them in the development pipeline. It shows 2 shorter projects. Those are actually passing lane and intersection safety improvements. And we're doing something on the passing lanes different there. KDOT standard has been to put in parallel, essentially paired passing lanes. So if you've got a passing lane going northbound, there'll be a passing lane southbound. That requires us to go in and purchase right-of-way, almost by definition. Purchase right-of-way, relocate utilities. Those are expensive things, as you folks know from work that you do. What we're doing on these projects from Garden City to Scott City is we are putting in alternating passing lanes. So you'll have a passing lane northbound, then there'll be a passing lane for southbound, then one for northbound again. We're gonna be able to fit those passing lanes into the existing right-of-way footprint. And the only place we're gonna be buying right-of-way and having to relocate utilities on that project are at the intersections where we're adding left turn lanes, right turn lanes, that type of work. So I'm looking forward to that one. And if it works out as I'm hoping, I'd like to see more of those added. It's gonna make adding passing lanes less costly. And I've got some things like 50 between here and Lakin that I wanna put the bug in and put them into the program as soon as we can to make that addition. Just drove that yesterday, and it'd be really nice to have some passing lanes. Yeah.
Well, Texas has used that for a number of years, and that does work very, very well. So
Yeah.
I'm glad to see Kansas.
Yeah. So, and the beauty of it is where we have what we call a Super 2 roadway configuration, where we've got 12-foot lanes and 10-foot paved shoulders. The majority of those roads have wide enough right-of-way that we can fit that in. We can fit in those alternating passing lanes into that existing right-of-way. So has good potential for us for the future. Yes. Actually, we've got some projects going right now that they're working on east of Dodge City. There's one, it's on 50, 56 in the west end of Edwards County, and that project is to extend what was originally built as about a 1-mile passing lane. It's being extended to 2 miles. And we shoot for 2 miles. Yep. Yeah. So anyway, those are the big projects that are coming around here. On our pavement preservation type projects, one that you'll see probably, well, hopefully next summer, we are going to be doing concrete pavement patching around on 50, 400 from where the project ended, or just east of 3rd, going west to Holcomb. We've got some panels that are starting to crack, and we'll be doing concrete patching and then doing diamond grinding. So if you guys have any concrete projects you want diamond grinding done, we'll be taking care of mobilization to get them out here in the next, not this summer, but the following. Make sure I'm covering the items I wanted to, and then, the other thing we have going is what we're calling an innovative technology corridor, and it's focused on freight movement. And that goes from essentially I-70 along 83 down to Garden City, Finney County. And we're looking at doing, we're already in the process of getting fiber put in along that corridor. Actually, the fiber's going in all the way to Liberal. And the technology corridor will do some things to help movement of traffic and freight. One of the items we're looking at is incorporating the location of our oversized loads, the wind blade type loads, onto our CAN Drive map. So if you go out and check the CAN Drive map before you leave, it's gonna tell you, okay, there's two of these buggers that I'm gonna have to deal with while I'm driving to Scott City. Or hopefully that there aren't any, but that's an addition that we're looking forward to.
Wind towers and wind blades classified as oversized?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And do
The-
their permits have a time frame for which they have a window of opportunity to use that permit? Because that's
belie-
how we're gonna be able to track it, right?
I believe the permits run for a 30-day period, but they tend to run, the operators tend to run them within a week, usually within several days of when they take out the permit, so. Daylight. Daylight and good weather. They better not be out there today or they'll get to meet a trooper. So, one of the other nice things, technology-wise, that I'm looking forward to on that project, and this is something I didn't know existed until the project started working. We're gonna be looking at the traffic signals through Scott City and the traffic signals on the east side of Garden City, Schulman and Spruce. It's AI technology can identify that there are trucks approaching the signal, and those signals will be set up to not to always give trucks a green light, but greatly improve the chances that a truck would not have to stop for the signal. Make our farmers happy. It's just one of those, it's a good economy improvement. For our economy, efficiency, they don't have to stop that big rig and then fire up and spend all the fuel to get it moving again. I'm looking forward to that. There again, that's one of those technologies, if it proves out here, I'm looking to say, okay, let's now apply this to 50 around the north side of Dodge City. Let's go 54 through Liberal. There's some other places where we can make good benefit of that technology. And then we have the project south of town, and I'll talk about that one. That project, we actually have two of them. One of them is in Haskell County. It's the project that'll go from the 56 junction north to the project that built the 160, 144 overpass. And that one is scheduled to let later this fall. Similar project, both of these are very similar to the projects that we had that built that overpass and then continued on it to the north into the southern end of Finney County. We're buying 4-lane right-of-way and building mostly adjacent 2-lane with passing lanes, making safety improvements. So the one in Haskell County is scheduled to let in August of this year. That may bump a month or so. They've gone through the condemnation process, and presumably by now they've paid the court, so we can move ahead with starting to move utilities and things. Our appraisers on the one in Finney County should be out there and starting to talk to landowners to begin the property acquisition on that one. And if you can move to the next slide, that's the project. And I took some pictures with a little more detail. I'll just tell you right up front, I don't know what all those different color lines necessarily represent, but I can get real close. Don't have a designer with me to fill in all the details. But this one is a project that is gonna, again, we're buying 4-lane right-of-way. We'll be building 2 new lanes with passing lanes, making safety improvements at the intersections. The majority of the project is gonna be to the east of the existing alignment of 83. And then when we get to about Brookover Ranch Road, it's gonna kick over and go to the west and make the main southwind entrance be across from where Business 83 turns to go downtown. And let's go to the next, I think, I think that was the blow up of the north end. Back up to the first where you were. That one has a lot of that detail around the southwind area.
Well, this one, Ron, that
That's-
we're on right now, the golf course is on the right
Okay, the
side.
golf course is to the right. This is not the north end, this is in the middle.
Correct. I would like to
Okay.
get to this, to the north end if we may.
Yes, get to the one that shows the north end. There we go. That's the one. And at the north end, it starts at the bridge, and we'll be doing a bridge deck overlay in conjunction with this project. We're gonna relocate Burnside a bit to the south so that we can develop turn lanes and decel lanes to get in and out of that, safety improvements. And then it shows where it's gonna flatten out the angle of the curve going into Southwind, that intersection. And we have moved into phase 1 after the input we got from you folks and your staff. We are including making the connection, I think the street is Brookside. It's the south entrance to Southwind. We're going to bring that together with Brookover Ranch Road, and it'll run on some of the existing highway where the new road is being built to the west. So,
Right, and then we'll have one crossing across the new highway on the south entrance at Southwind, as I understand.
there'll be a crossing, it's not quite the midpoint, but close to in between where Brookover Ranch Road is now and Brookside is now. So,
Just so you're aware, in that area, just less than a mile from the bridge, we have a new oil well right in your right-of-way.
I saw that, or in the proposed, yeah. Yeah, that's gonna make it more fun for our acquisition folks to deal with. So,
They're not done. That Merritt has that's the 3rd new oil well in less than a year. So they 3D seismic all of that area
okay,
for development. So we need to get with Merritt as a public entity and make sure that we are working with them on
yeah,
their oil and gas development. As you know, oil and gas development really helps all of us in the county, especially with valuation, and let alone production and so forth for the mineral and royalty owners. But roads are vitally important.
yep.
So question.
Yeah.
So I'm staring at this map, Brookover Ranch Road will stay, and you're gonna use the old 83.
The connection for Brookover Ranch Road will move to the north to connect to the new highway. And the Brookside connection out of Southwind will come down to the south, and those two will connect at a single intersection.
That's where that little blue dot is, where I guess it's blue, where it goes onto the new road.
Yep, right there.
Okay. So the county will be responsible for maintenance of the old 83 frontage road.
Yes, yes. All of our expansion projects include a local participation amount, and what we try to do is make that the exchange of maintenance for the roads that you're taking over. I think we have had one county in eastern Kansas that actually gave a cash payment, but there's no intent of doing that as part of a match, but. They really wanted their project.
I just don't think that KDOT or the other people are gonna allow us to have an airport right there on that good surface, so.
To have what?
I knew that'd get your attention. That's 2.5 miles or 2 miles of
Of roadway?
road.
Yeah,
So from Brookside north on the existing 83,
yes.
that will go away.
It'll continue to go up to serve Brookside, and then north of that, it'll be removed. And the intersection, the new intersection, or the new, what I'd call the main intersection into Southwind, across from the road from the 83 business intersection, that's going to have left turn lanes, and the design shows them being offset left turn lanes because of our truck traffic. So if you've pulled over to the left turn lane, there'll be a little gap to your right, and that truck that's coming the other way to turn the other direction left, he shifted over so that both of you can see the oncoming traffic to make the left turn, so.
And there's no county maintenance north of the new Southwind on Old 83, that'll all be taken out, correct?
That's gonna be taken out, right? Yeah, there's no need for keeping that one for access. Any other questions on that project, or?
Eventually, we're gonna make this 4-lane.
Right.
Is there a design or engineering study as to, is that gonna require a new bridge across
Yes. Yes. Once we do
Colorado
that.
River?
Yep. Corps of
At some
Engineers
point in
officially
time-
navigable streams.
I know that. But I think 2 tubes and development would be more than sufficient to handle the amount of water that we've had the last 40 years. It's like the new bridge on the south side of Garden City is $12 million project to be able to have the capacity to handle a flood that's barely occurred in my lifetime. We've had substantial differences of the use of public money for these huge, great big bridges across a dry riverbed. So I would ask that the people that are examining this of why we can't use box culverts and a very cheap form of construction rather than the high-dollar bridges to cover an event that has not occurred recently, and I can't see that, absent extreme circumstances, that even if we got the big rain, one-time rain, the cost of repairing the culverts would be far less than the initial construction of the bridges. If we put the difference of the money in the bank, we would have more than enough money to rebuild them 2 or 3 times over. So I would just ask for that consideration. We've had a small culvert crossing when you get to it over on Bruno Crossing on Wilderness Road that has more than adequately handled the dearth of water that reaches the west side of Garden City, and they function really well, and they cost very little compared to a suspended high construction bridge. That's just an example. Please continue. Sorry for the interruption, sir.
I'm pretty well just taking any questions at this point, so.
All right. The 4-lane coming in from the airport and around Garden City, did you have that in your presentation, or is that outside the scope of this presentation?
That's the one that's already built?
No, the new one coming around the north side of Garden City.
That would be a proposed item. That one's not in the development pipeline yet. That's one, when we get to the 2020, well, that does bring up another point I want to mention. We are going out for a study. We had a lot more requests for expansion and 4-lane than we can ever feasibly fund. And we are going out for a study to prioritize, see if there we go. It is Southwest Kansas Highway Mobility and Expansion Strategy. And what the focus of that is to look at Southwest Kansas, acknowledging that we have an increasing volume of trucks on many of our roads, and determine, the way I describe it is, it's to determine a plan of attack of where do we need to put in passing lanes to make improvements? Do we need to put in more frequent passing lanes? Where do we need to have the 4-lane? And the last 3 local consult meetings have definitely shown that there is a need for expansion to 4-lane in Southwest Kansas. So what this study, we're asking for consultant proposals by May. I don't know the exact date, but sometime in May of this year. And it'll be a 1-year study, so we'll have results, the initial results at next May. And we will have those available for the 2025 local consult meetings to have the strategy that this would put together. And this is a study, the counties, the cities in Southwest Kansas will be part of the stakeholders in this study process. So that's one that I'm greatly looking forward to.
Ron, as a part of that study, is there any way that they can look at possible funding mechanisms for it? Because that's where we get bogged down, it seems like, in these local consults across the state, is how are we going to fund all of this? That's through a creation of a transportation district with the authority to levy up to a penny sales tax in that district to help fund these projects so we can get them off the ground. It's nice to know what we need, but then how are we going to achieve?
How do you get there? Yeah. And I don't know that in particular is a target in the study, but you're gonna be stakeholders. You can sure bring it up. If that kind of suggestion comes from the locals saying, please add on a tax for us so that we can get this done more quickly, that carries a lot of weight. And I'm not gonna even begin to say I've got any knowledge or authority in that area, so.
Are you gonna talk more about that?
I can.
Okay, while we're at this map, the red lines, are those new proposed roads, or what exactly are those?
I think the red, I believe, are the ones that we're taking out. Or, actually, those may also be the right-of-way that was already owned. Construction limits for the project. This piece is one we're taking out. This existing section, I guess it's not showing it red, but that will come out.
Well, I was looking at the red lines you've got marked going west, around that one, I guess that's residence there, yellow.
Right, that's Susie's place.
That's where I was curious, does that mean
Yes?
no, up at the top, to your left. Yeah, right in there, right there by Brookor Ranch Road, right south of Brookor Ranch Road, see those 2 lines heading west? Up above.
This.
Yeah,
That's just designating the property lines.
okay.
It's kind of a magenta.
I was just curious.
We're
that's disappointing, but I understand why the engineers did it. Made substantial improvements to one house. That's Miss Miller's place and
Right.
in the lake.
Well, and that is one, our policy tends to be, it's gonna come into being a county road until it gets to the Millers. If it serves one residence, it's a private drive. If it serves multiple properties, it would become a county road. That's gonna be part of the local match. So you guys will get to maintain that piece.
It's gonna be approximately a mile from the intersection on New 83,
Right.
going across there to the edge of their property.
Right. And where it serves the other properties, it'll be a county road.
I am aware that the late Harley folks discussed this issue with your people at length, and unfortunately, there was not a resolution that worked, and the engineers and the designers won, again, to bring that road out rather than have access to the highway. So that being said, let's go on to the south where Commissioner Jones wanted to look at it. I think
Okay.
it's screen 25. I could be wrong.
What we do for, just a related note, for access along our major routes, 83, 5400, 54, those major routes we have designated as potential future 4 lanes. And so we do not allow new direct access other than public roads, which does not make me a bearer of good news to developers.
Right.
So, but that's the case throughout the district, and that's just to maintain safety along those corridors.
And I think, run from the county commission's perspective, as long as that's uniform, then that way the taxpayers can complain to us and we can say that it's uniformly being applied. All right. Commissioner Jones, you had questions about on to the south.
I was just going to question, we pick up, maintenance on Old 83 for approximately 2 miles from Parallel Road south, correct?
Right, where it becomes an access.
Okay. And then nothing to the north of Parallel?
I think there's a little portion of it south of the golf course that'll come down to Annie Shear.
My map's so small, I can't see that well.
There's gonna be a little portion here where you'll pick up the maintenance of that, of the existing road bed to serve those properties for access, and then they'll connect at Annie Shear to the new road. And through most of that section, it's all built about a half mile to the east.
So looking at this map, Ron, the yellow line from Parallel north, or to your right, what's that designation?
This one,
Yep.
that's where, I believe that's the section that's going to stay. I don't know what the difference is of the yellow versus the green,
I was gonna say, I thought it was just the one south of Parallel,
and that could be.
because that's not an existing road, is it? Or is that?
It's 83.
Yeah, it's 83 now, and
Existing.
we just, as a commission, we're gonna have to do a good job to make sure that the kids understand that's not a drag strip. And it'll be a nice improvement for a paved county road.
So will that go all the way up to, I think, Annie Shear?
Yeah.
That's what it
goes
looks
up
like.
Where 83 curves to the west now, that piece, there's a property in
Looks like 4 miles.
Part of that, we had a gap in there that we were originally going to take out, and I believe it was the input of this group or staff that they'd rather keep it fully connected and go ahead and make it a road. And that way some of those farm loads can stay on that road and not have to get out onto 83. And that could be where that extra color is in there, that was a piece we had said we could take out.
Right there at Plymouth and again to the south, those roads carry a great deal number of trucks trying to make it to the elevator, both to the south and back to town. And turn lanes for trucks to be able to get up to highway speed are important.
Yep. Well, and this will be developed very similarly to the south 2 miles of Finney County and 83 on into Haskell County, that it's gonna have those turn lanes and XL lanes.
That's wonderful news. Anything else, Ron?
Unless there are any other questions, I think that covers what I had.
Please announce yourself for the viewing public, sir.
Kenneth Jones, Public Works Operations Coordinator. While Ron's here, I just wanted to update you on, with the Main Street Bridge being out, we all know that Sagebrush Road and Wilderness are getting lots of extra traffic. And so just to let you know that we have been in talks with Ron and KDOT about some help funding the repairs of all those roads, so that we are not 100% responsible for the cost of maintaining or updating those roads after the bridge is open and all the traffic, heavy traffic has taken its toll on those roads.
All right. Well, one of the things that would help us is to make sure that the state signage run out at 83 in front of the bridge has no commercial traffic and no through traffic. And here we are as a board, we have several employers that use large trucks on the west side of Garden City. And if we say no commercial vehicles, that puts a large burden on them to go all the way around town to get around to an area that may be as short as 3 or 4 miles from their place of business. But I think that that's one of the things that we should consider, or our road isn't, especially Wilderness, is not going to be there very long if we have a bunch of commercial heavy trucks on that road. So that's one of the things that we would ask the state to consider is no commercial trucks and no through traffic. For signage right there at where you do have the barriers now, there's no signage on those signs.
Is it designated no through trucks now by the county?
I don't believe so. We haven't done anything formally.
We have the ability to make that designation, but if you make it, we can sure get the contractor to get a sign up there.
We'll consider it. Thank you.
Because Wilderness Road is not hard surface.
No, sir, no. And I put a product on there to firm it up and make it a lot more solid. It's better than it used to be, but the more that every time that we blade it, it's gonna get softer and it's gonna get right back to where it was. I mean, so there's a fine line between leaving it alone long enough to not have to blade it and tear it apart, but also keeping it bladed and smooth for the people using it, so. Thank you.
Kudos and thank you, Ron Hall, Kansas Department of Transportation District 6 engineer, for the update on planning on 83 Highway. We really appreciate you coming in. Thank you, sir.
Is there any way to take a short break?
Yes, there is. We'll be in recess for 5 minutes and reconvene at 9:45. session of the Board of County Commissioners. And next up on our business agenda is the Justice Planner Agreement. And Commissioner Dries, did you get your people and the technology to work, sir?
Let me ask, Sean, Alan, is everybody online and can you hear us?
Alan is here and I can hear you fine.
Awesome.
I can hear you.
Awesome. We appreciate your patience while we fought this technical difficulties.
Sure.
Anyway, let me start by recapping this for the commissioners here. All through the month of February, all 4 Tuesdays, we have met visiting about our LEC project. And somewhere along the line, we developed a fairly hard number on what it would take to put this existing jail and the administration building for the law enforcement back together. Kind of shocked everybody, I believe. And so during the discussions with the sheriff department and all those involved, we thought maybe we should be better off for the community to just simply look at maybe removing that jail off that top floor and starting with a new facility. And through the long process, Alan's Richardson was brought to our attention, and we met with him. I believe it was on the 29th, Alan, I'm not sure. But during that process, we've asked Alan to put together a proposal rather, on how he could help us as a county. And I think that's the general opening statement I would make, and I would ask Robert to expound on that, and then go on into Alan and visit with you, Alan.
I think that's exactly where we're at. We're kind of almost in that fork in the road. Are we going to continue on with our current facility, and if so, what does that look like? Or, as you stated, what does it look like if we sever off just the jail operations of that facility and repurpose the remaining facility for law enforcement needs?
As I understand where we are at, the recommendation of Commissioner Dries chairing the LEC committee is that we need to consider having, based on the architect's recommendation, have a planning study done by Justice Planners LLC. And the cost of that review and planning is approximately $79,000 and some change. Does any of the commissioners have any questions for the architect or for Justice Planners LLC on what they're being charged to explore for us?
I guess to make it public, what was the original estimate to fix the LAC? That's what I'm not real sure is known.
33.5 million.
Ooh, big number.
That's led us to, for long-term for a community, that would be probably maybe another 20-year fix, and then we'd do it again. The misbehaviors up in the sheriff's jail, they can come up with all kinds of ingenious ways to mess things up. And now, Sean, in his advice, he's got some good ideas on how to maybe lessen the damage, but nevertheless, they will figure it out. My comment again with Alan's firm is basically, Alan, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we're going to go kind of back to square one on what we actually do need for a jail. If we were starting out brand new, what we do need for a jail. He's going to study our population, our records, the history, potential law changes in the jail, and what we would need for a jail facility for our community. Is that close, Alan?
Yes, sir. That's pretty darn accurate. What we would propose doing would be to do a big data approach to go back for approximately the last 5 years to collect information on every arrest, every booking, who went to jail, why did they go to jail, look at every charge that they had, how long did they stay in jail, how long did it take to process cases through the judicial system. there because there's really two main drivers to your bed space needs for the size of your facility. How many people come to jail and how long do they stay? And so by looking at who's coming, why are they coming, how long are they staying, are there any ways to potentially divert more people at the front end to potentially speed up case processing? That's going to reduce potentially both of those numbers, the number of folks that come to jail and how long do they stay, which would lead to a smaller number of beds that you're going to need going down the road. Now, we don't collect snapshot data. We prefer to actually get into the information management systems there and to collect raw data and information on every single arrest, every single charge, to really put together a thorough picture of how your system is being used right now. We have no investment over how many beds you end up with, whether it's 200 or 2,000. What we want to do is to make sure that you use your tax dollars to incarcerate those people that really need to be in jail, those that don't need to be in jail. Let's explore options for alternatives to be as cost effective and as responsible as we can be.
And to follow up with that, this gives us, I don't want to word it, public information on what we truly need if a new jail is feasible versus fixing what we have. So we need these numbers that you're proposing to move forward and to justify even the potential of moving that jail facility, if I'm not mistaken. So,
Alan, will your study include the impact of the 25th Judicial District Juvenile Detention Center and the prospect of area mental health being involved in this building complex?
Yes, sir. That is one thing that I did leave out. There, this will include both adult and juvenile numbers and population and bed space needs. And part of the deep dive into the data and information is what kind of impact you're seeing from folks with serious mental illness, with substance abuse issues there, and exploring various options and avenues for treating and addressing those needs, whether that's while incarcerated or in the community.
What's the length of time to complete your study? Should we pass approval of your expenditure today?
Approximately 5 to 6 months. And I say approximately because a really big driver for that is how readily available the data and information is for us to collect from the county as well as from the courts.
Commissioner Drees, and to the architect, is there anything that we can do in the interim if we make some assumptions that we're going to need to build a new jail, what we can do with the LEC in the meantime to get it repaired and put back to the correct use?
well, my challenge, I believe, to my committee is while Alan's putting together his numbers, I think we need to brainstorm a little bit and come up with, is there any other options that we're not looking at besides refurbishing our LAC building or building a new jail? Is there other options? This group, we need to come up with every option that the public can possibly come up with and debate whether that is a option for us or not. We need to, I feel we're going to have one shot with the public to pass a bond on either this building or a new jail, and we need to do every bit of a diligence we can to get that accomplished.
Quick question, if the new jail is the route we're going, what will it cost to repurpose the LEC? Is that in his study?
That would probably fall under Sean's deal, and I see Sean is online or listening to us. Sean?
Yes, I'm in the process of looking at what that number is. It changes the assessment report that we were hired to do. I've got to reevaluate. I've got information from the police department for what they had intended to do in the remodel of their portion of the building. I think this also requires me to sit back down with Sheriff Warren and his staff to understand maybe from a bigger picture what they are now interested in doing in the sheriff's side of this. I think the first go around they were looking at kind of minimal renovations and focusing on the jail. I think there's probably some things that they want to look at a little more in depth now that this is going to be just the sheriff's department portion of the building and police department.
Suggestion, if we do go the route of a new jail, we better have a good handle on what it's going to cost to utilize that building.
Agreed.
Before we go to the public, because you're exactly right, we only get one shot at this thing.
And that's why I want to look at every option. We need to brainstorm what this building would look like with a new jail, our existing facility, what its purpose and usefulness will be as an administration center. I'll call it an administration center for now. But this is we're talking a lot of millions. Either way we look at this, so we need to get every possible question the public could have for us addressed, and that's what I'd like to challenge my committee on. Come up with everything that could come up and how we would address that. Why, when we finally settle on why this is our best option for Finney County.
Well, Commissioner Dries, you're the one person who doesn't like studies.
I know, I hate studies.
And yet you and your committee decided that we needed to spend $79,000 and some change and hire Alan Richardson's firm of Justice Planners LLC to do just that.
I have voted for one study in the last 12 years, or 11 years, so I'm going to break my record. But, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve this presentation from Justice Planners and to complete their study of our LEC juvenile jail needs assessment.
And I'll second that if the amount is $79,360.
Is that your motion, sir?
Yes, sir.
One quick comment. 79,000 compared to 33 million. I think I know how I'm voting.
Well, I think that my comment before we vote is that I would ask the study to include the effects of JDC filings and also the opportunity to understand perhaps the opportunity to have a mental health facility included in this project. And I know that anytime we start adding carrots to the stew, we're going to increase the cost and also have blurred boundaries versus just a standalone jail. But I want to consider all the avenues in this planning. And Alan, you think we can get that done?
Just to clarify that when you say include a mental health facility in the study, that would be to plan a mental health facility as well, or to address the impact a mental health facility would have on the jail population. Those are two different things.
I want to know what the statistics show of what it would take and what is the need for a mental health facility. I want to know what the need is. I hope that's the information that you provide to us.
As it pertains to the inmate population, then absolutely. If we're talking the general population of the community need as a whole, that would be a very different study.
All right. Any other questions?
And I will also add that as we have changed in the last 4 or 5 years as a design firm, we, and as you may remember, one of the markets that we focus on is also healthcare. our classification process does include the idea that mental health and some of the other issues involved in classification are important in our designs.
All right, any further discussion on the pending motion before the commission? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll sign the contract. Is the contract to be signed by the chairman or by staff?
There's no signature on this.
There is.
This is a proposal.
All right.
This is a proposal, and we'll follow up with a contract from Alan.
All right, very good. We'll take up the approval of who's going to sign it when we get the contract in front of us. Gentlemen, we appreciate your patience today as we work through our technology issues and look forward to working with you for the benefit of all of us here. This is a substantial, well, let's just call it big project. And we want the public to know what's going on, but we also have our law enforcement officers, both city and county, in this building, and the time for movement has come long ago, and I want to, from the chair's perspective, move this with dispatch. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you for your time. Good luck with the weather this afternoon.
Thank you. Robert, I might take this point while the sheriff's still here. I would like to call a Tuesday meeting, maybe 2 weeks from now or something, whatever, kind of communicate between the sheriff, what will work, to just outline what I just said and let the rest of the committee know where we're at in this process.
Anything else, Commissioner?
Done. Thank you.
We'll move on then. Our agenda, we amended to have an administrator's report at this point in time, sir.
Did you want to do the vote?
No, the clerk discharged our crew, so they are not waiting on us, and
Good morning, Commissioners, again. Just wanted to update you on a couple of items. First one being in keeping with the construction projects, we did have a meeting last week on the improvements for, or I guess the design, if you will, for the Health Department EMS facility. And we're going out, as you are aware, going out for proposals on that. Initially, we had a closing date of the 25th, and because of lack of response, if you will, we pushed it out to an April 4th closing date to get requests for qualifications on construction manager at risk for that project. Both in last week's meeting, both Commissioner Drees and Commissioner Pishney were in attendance, met with the architects and the department heads, and went through a very preliminary process of, if you will, moving boxes around on a page to try and fit in their needs and so forth for that facility. So that, and we'll meet again, I believe, in another couple of weeks as a follow-up to keep that project moving. The other item that I had that was passed around to you was, in essence, an update on our process with the city and neighborhood development. And what you have there in front of you, in essence, is a timeline and the progress and discussions that have been had with county staff with a summary of what's going on to date. This is a process that began back in the fall of '22, as a result of some of the challenges that were going on in terms of issuing of permits and code enforcement and developers receiving conflicting information. So what we had proposed from the county standpoint was to try and input into that process in essence, the county's view, opinion, suggestions, recommendations on development projects out in the county, outside the incorporated city limits. And so you have before you then a brief outline and a timeline of things that have been going on in that. And it's very in general. We did hire a staff member back in '22 to come on to be specifically the liaison, if you will, for development. And June of '23, we started identifying some possible amendments to the interlocal agreement. August of '23, we looked at some various modifications and so forth, with determination that from our standpoint, we figured we could still keep the structure and still just input what the counties needed to provide, so that we don't run into some of the issues that we have been realizing on projects. And some of those may include things like road and drainage issues that the county ends up taking care of after the development's put in and so forth, that may not have been up to county standards. So as we've gone through this process, you have some dates there back in August of '23 and September of '23, providing the county with some possible ideas and so forth about their processes and philosophy and development, and providing the county perhaps with instead of an interlocal agreement, maybe a consulting type approach to it. And that's not the approach that the county at the time was looking at. What that has morphed into now is more of the county as a whole taking the majority of that process over, except for things such as building plan reviews, permits and inspections, planning commission, and code enforcement. And that's really in a nutshell where we're at. And that in essence began February of this year and to date. So backing up a little bit, as we moved into the negotiation process, the commission at that time, in essence, agreed to continue on in that negotiation the way it was, trying to implement our development liaison into the process to try and make this a much smoother process. Now, with the direction that it is going, the question is to the commission is, with these changes, your thoughts and comments as it relates to the county, in essence, taking over the majority of those, except for those 4 items that you saw listed before you in that memo. And we do have, for most of the meetings, county counselor and the assistant county administrator and the development liaison have all been in attendance on those and talking through what this might look like. And they're here today for you to ask questions and talk about any questions that you might have in the direction we're going.
The city passed a resolution and proposed a consulting agreement as such. Has that been presented to us for review and consideration, or are we doing something different?
That consulting agreement was not presented to the board. That was not the desire of the county staff as we were trying to move forward. It was not the direction that, as a group, the county had agreed to during those discussions.
We purposefully pay the city $270,000 a year for that interlocal agreement.
Correct.
Are you proposing that we terminate the interlocal agreement, and what is its annual renewal date and the payments to the city? I have a bunch of questions on the mechanics of how that's going to work.
And we do too as well. We're in that process. The objective today, in essence, is trying to gauge from the county commission your interest in pursuing this direction, which is, as you say, in essence, going down that road of terminating that interlocal and entering into a much lesser type of an arrangement or agreement for those 4 services, if you will. And I say 4, there may be 5, there may be a few more, a few less, whatever the case may be there. The county and the city are working through that to kind of get an idea of what this thing looks like as we move forward in this direction.
All right, commissioners, I think that we're being asked to give direction to the county staff in the manner in which we want to proceed with the NDS interlocal agreement that we have with the city. If I've missed the mark, let me know.
No, you're right. You're right. You're correct.
Well, my understanding is they want to, NDS will continue with residential homes, commercial, and industrial site plans. That leaves quite a bit on our plate. Do you project adding more staff to help McKinsey with this project?
In essence, and last week we talked about during the work session, in the departments, what are they seeing for the upcoming years when we look at a 5-year glimpse? It wasn't conveyed that definitively, but yes, in essence, that would take an additional couple staffs to make it work on the county side to take this on.
I have confidence in McKinsey's ability. McKinsey, I guess I would ask McKinsey if she's comfortable and how big a hammer do you want?
Mackenzie Phillips, Development and Administrative Coordinator. I think if we were able to hire a few extra people, that we could definitely handle the load that would be put on us at that point. And that's just if we could hire those individuals. So.
I guess my only question would be, does this make us more expedient to prospective clients that come in for planning or zoning questions? Or is this going to make the levels of government more intrusive for their work?
In a lot of ways, it might speed up the process because currently, with us trying to input from the county's standpoint into this process, it's lengthened it a little bit of us not being notified right at the beginning of the process. And so there's been conflicting, what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, recommendations. And because of that, it's lengthened some of the processes. So this would have one person from one area of the county that would be making those determinations. They would be making those recommendations to the Planning Commission, the Board of Zoning Appeals, and the governing body at that point.
So this would entail anything outside the city limits,
Anything outside of the city limits, correct?
they would come to you first,
Yes,
that department first.
yes.
The only problem I have with this is trying to convey this information to the prospective client.
Yep.
Where to go and make sure they,
It'll take a lot of education and outreach within the community.
I'd like to follow up on that. Does that, where they want to NDS will still complete the commercial and industrial, does that mean the commercial and industrial still starts with NDS, or can they start with you? Because right now we're doing NDS, then back to you, and then back to NDS, and all the process. Address that.
So the intent is to, for everything to go to the County Public Works Office at that point is where it would be stationed at. Applying for the permits there, we would not be doing the review of the building permits for residential or for commercial and industrial. Those would be done by the Neighborhood Development Services staff still, but we would then be collecting them, and it's still a one point of contact.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I have a couple reservations, and I'm going to state them. We, some years ago, looked at this concept, and I don't remember the exact figure, but what I recall was like $585,000 for the county to go on its own and sever relations with the city. And that had a real bunch of concerned citizens who vocalized their displeasure with what we were considering. Most of those were affiliated with the Southwest Kansas Builders Association, who stated emphatically that it was their belief there was a real benefit in going to City Hall, and there you got the same rules for the county and for the city. Everything was alike, so that they didn't have to have a different set of rules for each place. My second concern is that what happens when McKinsey is on vacation or ill or whatever and somebody needs a permit? You're going to have to backfill because one person can't cover all of that. And I think you've identified that so far. But my chief concern is what's this going to cost? And to me, it looks like it's a mill or more in property tax in order to fund it separately. So that's my concern.
So to address your first concern with the Builders Association and the building code, there wouldn't be many significant changes to that because that's still going to stay with Neighborhood and Development Services. So this would just be splitting off the planning and zoning portion of it. And yes, we would be accepting the building permits, but we would not be the ones reviewing for the building code. And the building inspections then would still stay with the Neighborhood and Development Services Department. For your second concern, if we were to be able to hire an additional 1 or 2 people, then if I did go on vacation, there would be someone there to cover. Where right now, where I'm at, if I take vacation and something comes up while I'm on vacation, there is nobody to cover.
The one part that I do agree with is the Building and Zoning Board, an applicant for that now has to go to City Hall and apply, and I like the fact that that comes to the county. And of course, I've advocated that for years. The county board ought to be handled through the county. So I still harbor some concerns. You're gonna have to sell me.
I think the question for us today is still which direction do we want to go with neighborhood development services? And I guess this is my 30,000-foot altitude overlook. I think there should be one playbook in this county, whether it's city or county, for development. And we can't have two different systems with two different sets of rules and two different playbooks on how we're going to do a development. Whatever, from my perspective, it is important that the business community understand clearly that we have one playbook. And the consulting agreement that the city passed is designed to enhance that basic premise from the 30,000 feet. If that's not what we're going to do, I'm going to be very concerned about making sure that we are moving towards the goal of having one playbook, one set of rules, so that whether you're inside the city or outside the city, development is streamlined and known and determined before the project starts. That having been said, then it comes to the cost of which is the best way to go. On our current interlocal agreement, the county pays $275,000 a year to the city. Are you talking about reducing that contract cost in proportion to what our increased costs will be if we develop county staff to go this direction?
We, the groups, are not at that point yet to make that determination.
Okay.
We want to make certain that as we go through this exercise, that there is at least some appetite to entertain this. If not, we need to discuss then what direction you have some tolerance for.
County Councilor, did you have a chance to review the city's consulting agreement that they've proposed?
I reviewed that sometime back, yes. I think what it does realistically, when you're looking at that consulting agreement, they're gonna go through it, they're gonna send it through, they're gonna make recommendations, and then county staff can change it as they will after they make their recommendation over here. I think you're running into the same problems that you're running into now, where county staff is looking at it, then after they've gone through their assessment, county staff looks at it and goes, hey, wait, you forgot to think about X, Y, or Z, and then we're slowing the process down again, because really, I think it's a matter of how much input the county wants into this and to make sure that their regulations are being followed. If, I think it's either you want input or you don't. So, I mean, if you go back to the way it was before, NDS has been very hesitant to, because they have their recommendations and they don't want to put their stamp on it when it's coming from the county. So it's a catch-22 in the middle of this one.
I think we have a lot of work to do on the structure of the agreement. And the real question from staff is do we want to work on an interlocal agreement? Do we want to work on the consulting agreement as approved by the commissioners of the city? It's not just a staff recommendation, the commissioners voted on it. And whether we want to continue with the negotiations to figure out the best plan to proceed. That's where we're at. So the administrator, McKenzie, and the county counselor need our help on whether we should continue further negotiations on the NDS. My vote will be yes.
Your vote will be what?
Yes.
I agree. I think we need to continue to look at more options to give the county a little bit more say-so and streamline that process.
I just go back to my first statement, anything that makes it easier for the person that's doing the development to get it done. And not to bog down bureaucracy.
All right, with that being said, Chair will direct the administrator to continue to work with the city on hammering out the details with regard to the existing interlocal agreement and the proposed consulting agreement as passed by the city commission, and bring it back to us in what period of time, Mr. Administrator?
Looking to the group that's mostly been involved in that, what are we looking at?
Because I think that in order to make this change, it not only has to be, we understand the structural changes, but we also, especially as Commissioner Davy Jones pointed out, if there's going to be a fiscal note or a cost to it, we want to know exactly what that is before we start down that road.
Absolutely.
So time frame.
It would depend on how long it takes for the counselors to craft something. But as far as if we're okay to go with the direction that we're going, we could start hammering out some of those numbers and start working through that in the next couple of weeks. As for a final agreement, it would probably be a bit longer than that. Maybe, I think we have until July 1st to determine whether we're going to continue with the current contract for 2025. So it would be prior to that, but I think we would be able to bring something back at least with numbers, maybe by the second meeting in April,
That's highly recommended.
potential.
I think that if that contract renews July 1st, we better have an idea of what our fiscal note costs for our proposed action taken, including our 2025 budget issues that are also pending before this board. So, second meeting in April is the 15th, I believe.
That's correct.
All right. That's a short period of time and a short turnaround. If you run into problems, let us know. And
Yep, we will. We will bring you an update at least on that meeting and go from there.
anything else, Mr. Administrator?
That is it. Thank you.
All right. You can speak that up in the microphone. Yours light's not on and nobody heard that, but Commissioner Larry Jones said that April 15th was his favorite tax day of the year. We don't function off of income taxes though, Commissioner Jones. All right, very good. Let me get back to our playbook. Dory Munyon, County Clerk and Chief Election Officer, you're back up for the presidential preference primary election certification of the results. And we recessed the Board of Canvassers and don't need to have a vote of the commission. We will reconvene now as the Board of Canvassers. And Roxanne, would you help us out, please? Madam Clerk.
All right, I did just provide you with the final official results after the provisional count. So since election night this morning, I provided you with the unofficial results, and that's noted in the upper right-hand corner of the report I provided you this morning. Since election night, we've added 2 different things. One of those was a hand count of ballots that came in from the polling locations on election night, so those were not included in election night. So we added 6 to the absentee number, so that went from 84 to 90 ballots cast. And then, of course, this morning, we have added the 6 ballots that you asked to be, or that you ordered to be counted based on the provisional review. So the provisional's gone from 0 to 6. That brings our total ballots cast for this election to 840. Another thing that happens following election night is that we have a post-election audit. On Thursday, March 21st, we had a bipartisan board made up of 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans conduct the audit. So we did audit 2 precincts. Due to the low turnout of this election, we audited 2 precincts. We usually just have to do 1 based on statute, but because of that low turnout, we went ahead and did 2, which ended up being about 10% of our total turnout. And everything came out fine in that audit. Everything matched perfectly. There were no discrepancies. On Friday, March 22nd, we received the approval from the Secretary of State's office that the audit was approved and that we could continue on to canvass. If you have any questions or if you would like to see any of the election materials, we would be happy to gather those and bring them up to you. Otherwise, I'll stand for questions as you consider certifying the final results.
Madam Clerk, I have high confidence in both your audit committee and those who were part of the process today of accurate, full, and fair elections here within Finney County. Does any of the commissioners or the Board of Canvassers have any questions for the clerk?
Just to comment, anytime anybody's viewing this, they should be known, it should be known that you went out of your way to make sure the votes were correct by taking votes over to people that were unable to travel to get them.
Yes.
I said, that's above and beyond normal procedure, so I would.
Yeah, we do everything we can to assist the voters.
Work.
No, we appreciate that, Larry. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, as a Board of Canvassers, then, is there a motion to certify the election results as submitted?
So move.
It's been moved and seconded to, as a Board of Canvassers, to certify the election results as submitted. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Those are your results.
All right, thank you. I would just like to take a moment just to thank my staff, particularly Vanessa. She does a lot of work to make these elections happen. She does all the heavy lifting, but all of my staff really pulls together and does a lot of things. I also want to thank other county departments. They not only allow us to use some of their people on election day at the polls, but we also have our maintenance and fairgrounds departments and public works departments who help us with all of the setup and some of the behind the scenes things. So all those departments are very important to us. And then of course I want to thank the 60 to 70 poll workers that we hire each election to work early board, election day, or some of the various boards that happen after election day. So thank you to them.
With those comments, Roxanne, I'll entertain your motion to adjourn the Board of Canvassers.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second to adjourn as Board of Canvassers. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you for your service, Roxanne.
Great job, Roxanne.
We'll now reconvene the Board of County Commissioners for its regular session. The last thing on our agenda today is an executive session with the county counselor. County counselor, is there a need for an executive session?
There's some attorney-client matters that we need to discuss this morning.
And the persons that you want to be involved in that executive session?
Myself, the administrator, and the assistant administrator. With the
Motion to adjourn into executive session and the length of time.
I wouldn't say more than 10 minutes.
All right. We'll give us just a little bit of room and say we'll go for 14 minutes and reconvene at 10:50 a.m. Is there a motion to so adjourn to executive session?
I move we enter executive session, so mention people and time.
The same people being the administrator, assistant administrator, the county counselor for the 14 minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded to executive session. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? We're in executive session. 7:50. Motion to go out of executive session back into regular session.
So moved.
Is there a second, Commissioner Jones?
Second.
Moved and seconded to go back into regular session. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I will state that no action was taken during executive session during the attorney-client consultation and privileged period of time. That takes care of our agenda today. Thank you, everyone, for the special session to meet the needs of the special election for the preferential presidential primary in which 840 citizens chose to participate. Hopefully, the people in Topeka are listening, and we don't need another one in 4 years. The agenda had been completed. Is there anything else before the county commission? If not, motion to adjourn.
Move we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.